The victory of the war belongs to the government, its destruction belongs to the city, and its better memories belong to the veteran. Hi, I'm Kian, and this is Every Film is Made Twice. I am Iranian and like Iranian films. In this video I wanna talk about The Glass Agency. Several years have passed since the end of the Iran-Iraq War. Haj Qasem, a former fighter, accidentally sees his old comrade on the street. He realizes that he is ill and is looking for a competent doctor for treatment. Haj Qasem helps him. The treating doctor determines that a shrapnel has remained in his neck since the war and that he must be operated immediately, but abroad, London. Haj Qasem is thinking of financing the trip, but he cannot afford it on time. He goes to a travel agency and applies for tickets. They say we can't issue tickets until the money arrives. Haj Qasem gets angry, breaks one of the windows and takes the whole travel agency hostage. The film deals with post-war problems. Those who fought on the fronts for years feel strange when they return to the city. Their problems have just begun. They are wounded, they are unemployed, and they have mental illnesses. The government does not give them enough benefits, and the people do not empathize with them. Those who fought selflessly and lost their closest friends on the battlefield. But now in the city everyone is talking about money. Sacrifice is no longer valuable. Haj Qasem is a taxi driver even though he was a commander during the war. He is upset when he sees that he cannot save one of his friends from death. When he sees that no one is helping him, he becomes more upset and eventually takes the agency hostage to allow him and Abbas, his former comrade who needs immediate operation to fly. Abbas opposes him and says that we fought for the people and we should not take them hostage to achieve our goals. But Haj Qasem continues his work without paying attention and says, I will not harm them. Hostage taking continues. One of the intelligence officers comes to Haj Qasem to negotiate. Haj Qasem has only one demand, his and Abbas's trip to London for treatment. However, the intelligence officer believes that this action of Haj Qasem endangered the national security and actions must be taken against it. He wants to arrest Haj Qasem in any way he can. Regardless of Haj Qasem's intentions and Abbas's injury, he knows only one way: repression. When Haj Qasem pretends to have killed one of the hostages, they send a car to take him and Abbas to the airport. When they get in the car, realize that the driver does not have the key and Haj Qasem realizes that he has been deceived. The intelligence officer is preparing to arrest him, at which point a helicopter arrives. One of the agents gets off with a letter from high-ranking officials and picks up Haj Qasem and Abbas and takes them to the airport. They board a plane to London so that Abbas can undergo surgery, but a few minutes after the takeoff, Abbas dies in the arms of Haj Qasem. The narrative is weak, no details provided. Haj Qasem's son easily goes to see his father during the hostage-taking. The police lined up around the agency are decorative. They do not take action. The rhythm is slow. The dialogues are more epic and do not fit into the chaotic conditions of hostage-taking. We see artificial order, not an organic order. We feel the camera, the director is everywhere. The story itself has no definite logic. How can a war hero take the hostage? Does he suffer from mental illness due to the blast wave? The film makes hints, but inaccurate and obscure. However, the film caused a lot of controversies at the time of its production. Some said Hatami Kia had a negative view of the fighters and veterans. Some praised his courage in looking at the war from a different angle, and some described it as a typical thriller. At first, the film was not licensed, but with the change of cinema administrators, the film was released. In my opinion, the film is weak in terms of narrative and production and is ranked lower than Low Heights, but the subject and the confrontation of a veteran with the intelligence officials on the one hand and the veteran and the people on the other hand are new and thought-provoking. The Glass Agency shows well how a victorious power in a war wants to protect itself from dangers and no longer has to do with the enthusiasm of those who fought to protect it in the past. 1. Some said the film was made in imitation of Dog Day Afternoon, and it's basically an adaptation of that film, but apart from the similarities in appearances such as hostage-taking, drawing the curtains, requesting a car and going to the airport, and writing a letter to the wife by the hostage-taker, there is almost no similarity in content. Superficial similarities are also few. It cannot be considered an adaptation. Notice that the endings of the two films are completely different. 2. In 2019, a film was made in Iran under the title of Watching This Movie is a Crime. It's about several young Basijis. Basijis paramilitary volunteer group consisted of civilian volunteers. The Basij in Iran is not an official military organization. They do not receive salaries and only strive for their values. That is why they are not conservative. These Basijis take hostages at the Basij base. Because a British citizen had beaten the wife of a Basij member, they detain him and ask the authorities to try him, but the authorities consider him an important element that can help in negotiations with European governments, and his trial is not expedient. The Basijis do not release him and the atmosphere becomes tense. It seems that Watching This Movie is a Crime is more serious and logical in terms of production and content, but they certainly had a special look at the Glass Agency. In both films, we see the sacrifice of the ideal to the rule of law, an issue that an idealist cannot tolerate. Note the sequence when Hodgson crosses the pedestrian crossing and his footprint remains on the street. It is as if he has crossed the boundaries of society. Conclusion: if you see an old friend on the street, pretend you do not know him, her. Otherwise, you may have to take hostages.